been 3 months since we last did a little video update, and so I'm just going to show you how the garden is looking, talk a little bit about what we've been doing the last 3 months. We had a little rush of helpers at one point, so we got lots of little things done, like taking off the mulch of these round circle gardens and putting compost, and then putting mulch back on top. And I'll take a quick look inside the greenhouse and see what's growing in there. We did a bit of tidy up here for all the resources. Took quite a lot to the dump, and then stored away everything that could still be used, and then moved the van back down there. You can see inside the greenhouse we've been growing a lot of food, still a lot of food, ready, available to eat, salads and for cooking. But we've got lots of plants ready to plant out into the food forests and into the garden. I'm just waiting for a little bit more moisture. It's been dry. We've got seeds planted in trays, germinating, coming up. I've taken some elderberry cuttings. I've got yacon bulbs or tubers in the pots to propagate more yacon. And yeah, when you water everything in the greenhouse, things grow really nicely in here. In the new food forest, some of the trees are very, very slow to get going, but you can see on most things now some bit of green emerging. Some of the stone fruit, like the plums and peaches, have flowered quite a while ago, but a lot of the other trees are very, very slow to put out their first green leaves for the season. I think because of the dry, things are just waiting, and they seem to be several weeks behind where they would normally be. Every year we are removing or reducing the size of some trees around the house. So recently we did these 3 trees here because they were getting bigger and bigger and sort of becoming a potential threat to the hobbit house here, because I mean long term they get big, branches want to drop off in storms, or eventually the trees, you know, have to want to fall down as well. So we've pollarded them, and then they'll regrow, and we'll allow them to regrow to a certain point, and then we'll prune them again. It's just an ongoing thing that we need to do around the house to reduce fire risk, reduce the threat of branches and limbs damaging structures if they do fall down. And we make use of all the wood that we can, store it for firewood. Sometimes we mulch up the branches and use that, but sometimes we just take it to the dump. And then at the dump they have a huge big machine that comes every now and again to mulch all the green waste, and then that's available for people to put back on their gardens, and we do buy that mulch frequently and put it back on the garden as well. So it's uses a little bit of fossil fuel in that system, but at least the organic material, the carbon, doesn't just get burnt and very quickly put up in the atmosphere as a pollution, and rather it's locked up for several more years in the form of mulch that gets put onto people's gardens. The bees are nice and active, and I'm very soon going to add, well, I'm going to open them up and see how they're looking inside, but I'm guessing that I'm going to be able to add a 3rd box onto the hive on the far side because it's very strong, and the one in the middle possibly as well. We'll just see. We'll open the lids up and see how busy things are inside, and then add a box if it needs a box. I think they will need a box because we've already had 2 or 3 months of the acacias flowering. You can see some of the acacias here are finishing, but there's been already a succession of them flowering for the last couple of months. so hopefully there's some honey flows already. And then there's some fruit trees starting to flower there. You can see the quinces flowering. I mean, the takasasti starting to flower. All the stone fruit have flowered already and still finishing off. And when they finish, then the apples will come soon enough after that. And then all the little plants in the gardens and that will start flowering as well. So one of the other projects we were doing with the helper was to clean up the goat paddock, because there were lots of branches that I cut down to feed them. So again, trying to trim down some of the trees a bit lower, and once you trim them lower, then each year they will become bushy, and then you can trim them again and prune them for forage. So you can see over here there's this fairly large size mulch pile. That's one of them. The others I've already taken away and spread her out. So we basically just raked the whole area of all the little sticks, all the branches that I had used for goat forage and for food. We just pulled them into piles and then we mulched them up. So this area now is going to rest. Hopefully we get some moisture. I might even plant some seeds out, put some hay out on top of the seeds, and then get some green coming back. So in the meantime, the goats are in this paddock. Hi, Gil. Hi, that's Chucky. Hey, Milky. Hi, talking goat. So here you can see one of the examples of the nut trees that has been mulched with the mulch from the goat prunings. And you can see we have a stack of bamboo lengths here. The goats love the bamboo, so they were cleaned up by a helper and the little bits put through the mulcher, and then we have those to use for stakes. And another thing we did is we took away this big net we had over this old kitchen garden, which has now got fruit trees in it. We just found the net was restricting the size the trees could grow to. They kept pushing their branches through the net, and that was deforming the trees to a degree. And we like it now. Having it open it feels a lot nicer, a lot better. We might lose out a little bit of shade we're getting from the net and the bird protection, but what we will do is we'll just net individual trees that get birds damaging them and see how it goes. Although I think we have a possum that's doing damage as well, so we need to scare him away. But it's nice having it open. See, there's not a lot of growth happening. Some growth happening, but it's very slow. The blackberries here, raspberries, sorry, are coming back. We really need some rain, so if anyone's got some extra rain, send it our way. We can make good use of it. We've got plenty of greens to keep us going, but we're looking forward to being able to plant some beans and get the tomatoes and pumpkins going. I just want to point out another important job that needs to be done, and that's the repair of things like gloves. We go through quite a lot of gloves. They are fairly low quality, so they get holes in them quite quickly. But the thing is that if the glove isn't too badly damaged, it can be given a new lease of life by somebody just spending a little bit of time and dedication to fixing them. They used to do this in the old days a lot, with socks and all the clothes were repaired and repaired and repaired. So when we find a helper that doesn't mind doing a little bit of sewing and finds that meditative, then we ask them to go through and repair the gloves for us. And we had Jamie really liked doing this job, so she's repaired dozens, probably 2-3 dozen gloves for us. And so this will keep us in supply of gloves for the next few years. We are very pleased now to be milking our goats. We've got 2 Anglo-Nubian cross-boar goats, and it's been a long process. It's been about a 2-year process where we got them young, and we've had to sort of wait until they were quite old, then mate them, have the 2 babies, start milking after some time, and then we sold the babies just last week, and so now we seem to be consistently milking around 1.5 litres every morning. So with this beautiful fresh goat's milk, we are using that to drink, and we are making milk kefir with a starter that makes like a yogurt kefir that goes into the smoothies, and then we're making a basic cheese. This is kind of like a ricotta cheese, but then I made this little press, and so you make the cheese and put it in a cheesecloth, and then put this on top, and then it screws down and presses it hard. And when you press ricotta cheese, it turns into paneer cheese, which is kind of this over here. It's kind of a hard cheese that you can use in cooking. You can eat it like that, but it goes very well in all sorts of foods if you're putting it in cooked. Quiches and things like that are great too. Talking about the goat finances, we've got it worked out now that we are selling 2 litres of milk a week, and that is more or less paying for the extra feed that we give the goats while they're milking. We give them some organic pellets that are made up of different grains. We give them coconut that's been ground up, like it's called cobra. That's in a powder form that they really like. We give them some sunflower seeds, and we give them a little bit of seaweed meal as well for the minerals. And so that money from the milk is paying for that extra feed, which then gives us a supply of milk and enough milk to make the cheese and yogurt. And otherwise the goats are eating a lot of tree forage. The grass at the moment is very poor. It hasn't really grown much, so I'm cutting a lot of branches for them. And yeah, there's a huge variety. I've basically given everything around the house a really good heavy pruning to reduce the fire risk, but also to feed them. And then the branches left over get mulched, and then those mulchings go around the fruit trees and food forests. So it's getting to a stage where it's a little bit of a closed system.